Okay, let's get right to it. Hundreds of companies are leaving California, and the data? It shows this isn't just a trickle, it's a flood, and it's actually speeding up. So let's unpack what is really going on here.
And look, I want to be super clear about this. This isn't some political talking point. It's not a few stories I found online. Nope. This is a documented trend, backed up by public records and real analysis. And it's happening right now.
So, you might be thinking, okay, this is just a story about billionaires complaining, right? Or maybe some CEOs cutting deals in Texas. But the thing is, this whole exodus, it has a direct impact on everyone who still calls California home. And a lot of that impact is kind of hidden. Yeah, we're talking about your wallet. It hits your taxes, the job market, what you're paying for gas, even the quality of public services. Things like schools and roads. Because when these big taxpayers pack up and leave, that bill, it doesn't just go away. It gets handed to everyone who's left.
Over the last year and a half, something major has been shifting under the surface in California. Of course, you'll hear state officials trying to downplay it, or you'll see press releases calling it a strategic realignment. But when you push all that spin aside and just look at the numbers, they tell a completely different and much starker story.
And here's the really striking part, the actual data. You've got groups like the California Policy Center and the Public Policy Institute of California. Both of them have found that the rate of companies moving their headquarters out of the state is the highest it's ever been since they started tracking this way back in the early 2000s. So this isn't just one bad year, it's a pattern and it's holding steady. Okay, so who exactly is leaving? Let's be clear, we're not talking about your local mom and pop shop. We are talking about the absolute pillars of the state's economy. Think Fortune 500 companies, huge tech firms, and major manufacturers.
I mean, take a company like Chevron. They've been a part of California since 1879. A true giant. And now, they're moving their HQ to Houston.
And how about this one, In-N-Out? It's a California icon, right? Well, they're moving their corporate headquarters to Tennessee. And it's not just about some name on a corporate directory changing. This stuff hits the ground hard. A perfect example is Blue Diamond Growers. They shut down their plant in Sacramento and boom, just like that, 600 manufacturing jobs were gone. And those are the kinds of jobs that are really hard to bring back to a community.
And the list just keeps going, and it's across all sorts of industries. You've got tech, like Realtor.com heading to Austin, famous brands like John Paul Mitchell Systems moving to Texas, and then big retailers like Bed Bath & Beyond. They just pulled out completely.
And they're not exactly shy about why they're leaving. Bed Bath & Beyond put it right there in their official filings, plain as day. California's too risky to operate in.
Wow. I mean, that one sentence tells you just about everything you need to know. So, this brings us to the big question. Why is all this happening? And yeah, politics is part of the conversation, for sure. But for the people actually making these huge multi-million-dollar decisions, the CEOs, the CFOs, it really just boils down to the math. So let's break down what's called the cost stack. You start with the official corporate tax rate, which is 8.84%. Okay, that doesn't sound so bad, but that's just the beginning. You have to pile on franchise taxes, workers' comp premiums that are like 30 to 40% higher than most other states, huge environmental compliance costs, and then a whole bunch of local fees. When you add it all up, the effective rate, what a company actually pays, swells to somewhere between 11 and 16%.
Now, let's put that in perspective. California is sitting up here, around 13% on average, and its biggest competitors, states like Texas and Nevada, they're at zero. For any big company, that difference isn't a small thing. It's a massive disadvantage that just screams problem on a CFO spreadsheet.
And just when you think that costs can't get any higher, there's a new proposal on the table that's like pouring gasoline on the fire. It's a potential 5% tax on billionaires. But here's the craziest part. It's retroactive. So get this, even if you pack up and leave California, the state could still try to tax your entire net worth for years after you're gone. I mean, can you imagine the uncertainty that creates?
And this is not some what-if scenario. Tax attorneys are already reporting that their clients, with a combined net worth of $600 billion, have already started the process of leaving, all because of this one proposal. And the thing hasn't even officially made it onto the ballot yet. That's how serious they're taking it. Okay, so what happens when all that money and the companies that generate it just leave? Well, it sets off a domino effect that slams right into the state's budget. You see, California's budget has a kind of Achilles heel. It depends heavily on a tiny group of people.
the top 1% of earners, we're talking about 175,000 households, they pay for about 40% of all the state's personal income tax. So when a big company moves its headquarters and the top execs go with it, a huge chunk of that tax revenue just disappears. And we're already seeing the results of this. The Legislative Analyst's Office, they're now projecting an $18 billion deficit for this year. And remember, just a couple of years ago, the state was swimming in a nearly $100 billion surplus. That's an incredible turnaround, and it shows just how fast things can change. But look, this isn't just some abstract problem for politicians in Sacramento to worry about. A budget hole like that eventually trickles down to everyone. And sometimes it hits you in a place you really feel it, like your gas tank.
So, let's take a real-world example. When a company like Phillips 66 says it's closing a huge refinery down in LA, what does that actually mean for the price you pay at the pump?
All right, here's the number that should make everyone sit up and pay attention. You see, California has its own special blend of gasoline, which means you can't just easily import more from other places. So when a local refinery shuts down, that production capacity is just gone. And energy analysts are now predicting that if this trend keeps up, we could be looking at gas prices over $8 a gallon by the summer of 2026.
So let's bring it all back to where we started. This exodus of companies from California, it's real. It's being driven by some very clear financial math. And all the data we have shows that it's not slowing down, it's speeding up.
But now I really want to hear from you. What are you seeing on the ground where you live? Drop your county in the comments and name one big employer that's moved, downsized, or shut down in the last couple of years. Or hey, if things are good, just write stable. Because this kind of ground-level information tells the real story way before any official report does. The next 12 months are going to be crucial, so watch the company filings, watch the state budget, and keep an eye on who decides to leave next.